5 overlooked, underrated albums for 2021. I enjoy doing this series, although it's not technically a series. It's a yearly event. I like doing this. I like to highlight the most underrated, overlooked albums of every year, because there's always quite a few. There's always a few that get shafted. There's always a few that get ignored. They get thrown by the wayside, and they deserve better. So I like to be the guy to come on here and say, hey, these albums are underrated. I did used to do overrated, but I stopped doing that. I don't know, it kind of, people didn't always respond that well to it. People would say it was like, you know, negative, it was snarky, it was completely bitter. I wouldn't even be aiming to do those things. It was always just something I felt personally was my opinion on something. So I just did a video on it, but you know, I'd rather not get those, you know, negative responses. It's kind of a pointless video anyway. I may as well just stick to highlighting the undiscovered albums, the gems that you guys should be checking out. And to be fair, the first one I want to highlight actually isn't undiscovered at all. She's pretty well known in the grander scheme of, you know, popular music. She had some hits a few years ago, and the artist is Tinashe. Tinashe. I did think it was only Tenache, but it is in fact Tinashe, and I did not know that. Yes, her album 777 is not only rivaling the Drain Gang, because they also had an album called 777 last year with Blade, but it is in fact a very, very good R&B album, a pop R&B album that is one of the best of its genre, of its field, in the past year or so. In my opinion anyway, I think it's very sultry. I think the tracks are very catchy. I think tracks like Bouncing, for example, are incredibly catchy, ridiculously catchy to be honest. But so much of this album is just ear candy for me. I think out of all of the most recent R&B albums, Tinashe should be up there, talked about as one of the better ones in the genre at the moment, because this album, in my opinion, is great. Not sure if it was just a string of disinterest over the years that's just caused this one to go a bit underrated, overlooked. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm here to tell you that it's actually very good, and if you did skip it, I would urge you to check it out and then let me know what you think, because I do think this is one of the best albums of the year, particularly in R&B. Next one is to mention Tomoko Amura. Now this one is ridiculously obscure, so I'm not going to act like, you know, this one got totally overlooked. You know, oh my god, why is no one talking about this? Well, to be fair, this artist is not very well known at all, but The Branches is a two-part series. And the one from 2020 last year, I wish I heard it at the time, because that album is great. This album's not quite as good, but it is still very, very good. Some really wonderful jazz type stuff going on here. Tomoko is very, very talented. This is definitely for the jazz fans. This is beautiful stuff. And obviously it is part of a two-part series, you know, it's volume 1, volume 2. This is volume 2. Obviously go to volume 1 first, check that out. You could probably play them, you know, back to back, because overall it doesn't actually end up being that long of a runtime. But yeah, at least check out the volume 1 and then do volume 2 at some point, because I think Tomoko is very, very good. Next one is to mention ALEPH. Good recommendation from the man, the electronic man, the Wonky Angle. When I got recommended this, I checked it out, was blown away by the textures, by the cinematic approach, by the space sort of a universe sort of feel that the album gives you. It feels otherworldly, it feels out of this world, it feels like you are traveling through an intergalactic Star Wars battle at times. God, that's the nerdiest thing I've ever said. You wouldn't even think that I'm actually not that big of a Star Wars fan, and yet I just said that. But yeah, fantastic stuff here. Again, electronic fans, big fans of like John Hopkins, should be checking this out, and yet it went completely under the radar, so I had to mention it here, because a name drop like John Hopkins amongst the music community, oh my god, that's better than porn for you guys. Not only that anyway, but this genuinely is just one of my favourite albums of the year, and I think any fan of electronic music should be on top of this one. so it had to be mentioned. In a year where we've had your Squids, your Black Midis, your Black Country New Roads, your Shames, all of those kinds of artists that have been grouped together in an umbrella term in the UK at the moment, as the post-punk wave seems to be taking off. You've even got bands like Idols, which are doing something slightly different, but you could put them maybe in the same umbrella loosely, very loosely. I don't want to keep doing that. But yeah, yeah, in a year filled with that, chock-filled, you'd have thought that the band Horsey with Debonair would have gotten something, but they sadly did not. I really thought this was going to be one of the more acclaimed art rock albums of the year. They're incredibly quirky at times. At points it feels like I'm listening to circus music, but just imagine it through the lens of like a post-punk vision, you know, post-punk lens. And that's how you'd get this band's music. But I think they're very creative, I think they're very kooky, they're very weird, and they're very over the top and fun. They just created a really, really great rock album for 2021. Genuinely thought this was gonna blow up and get huge buzz in the music circles, but it didn't, and I'm very shocked to have hit the end of the year and not see this one get talked about ever. But I have to be here to tell you guys that it is worth your time. And finally, I've been creaming over this guy since January because he dropped one of the best EPs of the year at the start of the year and still remains to be one of the best of the year. And then in August, he dropped a follow-up EP and that was also very good too. So I have to group them both together as being pretty overlooked in the year of music, and that is Kessler, the man Kessler himself. Ambivalent being the better of the two, I would say. I mean, this one is incredibly atmospheric. It is dripping in atmosphere. The drum and bass on that album as well, on that EP, is phenomenal. And then he took it a bit of a step further on the September time EP. Definitely went in a bit more of like a house direction, a bit more of a techno direction in places, a bit of acid techno too, a bit more accessible, I would say, actually, compared to the one from January. But both EPs are just really great in the world of electronic at the moment. Like, Jesus Christ, this guy has got something in him. He's so good, and just weird because I feel like I'm the only reviewer championing him. I just don't really know why it's been only me, but I do know a few of the guys out there as well that are loving Kessler at the moment, but in the reviewing world I've seen no one mention it, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But this guy Kessler deserves way more attention. Yeah, great EPs here, definitely worth your time. Ambivalent and Foul Play. The artist is Kessler. Do not let him go overlooked any longer, and please check them out. And check every other release I've mentioned in this video as well. I promise you they're at least worth your time, and you'd probably get at least one out of these 5. Well, technically 6, because there are 2 EPs in this list as well. So I think there's a diverse list here. You're gonna get something you like. You got rock, you got jazz, man. You got R&B, you got electronic, you got drum and bass. Like, Jesus Christ, man. There's so much to offer in this list. So there's got to be something here for you. If you are a fan of any of those genres, I think you'd like at least one of these. So yeah, if you haven't checked these out, please let me know when you have in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. What are your most underrated, overlooked albums of 2021? Would love to see what you guys think. Thank you for watching as always. Tell me what I should do next in a video in the comments. Check out my Patreon as well if you are feeling generous. Subscribe if you haven't already, that would be fantastic. Have a good day and goodbye.